Today I want to talk about the really about the nerdy developer things related to adaptive cards. So in the first two sessions we sort of covered all the adaptive cards basics, and Thomas covered a lot of the let's call it citizen developer stuff, so the Power Platform stuff, Outlook, and all that. And I want to talk about the developer side of things. Adaptive Card itself, I like that slogan. Sort of Matt Heidinger from Adaptive Card team itself brought it up, and you will see throughout the presentation that it's really about that. So Adaptive Card is really powerful. You can do a lot with it, and the majority of people working with adaptive cards probably don't even have a clue what you can do with it. If you're only using cards in Teams and in like Power Automate, you're pretty limited to what you can do with cards. If you start using cards in your own applications or wherever you like, really, then you will quickly see that you can do a lot more with cards. Just a few things to start with. So adaptive cards is primarily used in Power Platform. That's I was talking to Microsoft itself, and if you look at the log files and all that, then yeah, the primary use for adaptive cards these days is Power Platform. So the second is Microsoft Teams apps. And we are not talking about flows here, so it's not Power Platform to Microsoft Teams, but dedicated Microsoft Teams apps. And the last one is custom apps, such as WebEx Teams, for example, is using adaptive cards, AdBot, and there's a couple more. The Power Platform stack is sort of for what many people call citizen devs, admins, whatever, and the rest is sort of for developers, and that's what I want to cover today. I don't like a ton of slides when it comes to developer stuff, so I really want to jump in and basically show you a few things. I hope that's working now. Sadly, Microsoft Teams doesn't really like incognito tabs, but we can do that. Would be great if things would work. 1 second. Account. Okay, that seems to work. Maybe not. If you want to use Microsoft stuff to show something, it's not working. Here we are. Just took a while. I built a bot just to show something. Let me start it up. Just takes a few seconds. Okay, so here we are. So basically, what people do with adaptive cards in Microsoft Teams is you always you pretty much always have a bot behind. So you have either Node.js or .NET bot based on the bot framework, and in the bot framework itself, you pretty much, there's tons of ways to do things for Microsoft Teams and for other channels as well. But one of the main things people do is send cards. If you look in Stack Overflow, there's tons of questions about how to use bots in Microsoft Teams, and this is just a sample bot I made. There's nothing special about it. What you can do with the bot is you can pretty much take any card you want. Things are really not going well today. You can take any card payload you want, just send it to the bot, and the bot should return a rendered card. If the bot is actually responding, it should return a just give it a sec. It's a sort of bad day today. So the bot might respond with a rendered card. Here we are. Okay, he couldn't. Oh. Let's try this. That's the thing when you want to show nerdy developer stuff. It's usually not working. Yeah, doesn't matter. So when you are in Microsoft Teams and in the bot framework, a lot of people try to build cards on the fly in C#. Things like you might see people like, oh yeah, let's build a new card. No idea. Edit text blocks, blah blah blah. Build a card with code. A lot of people do that, and you see that really often. What I wanted to demonstrate initially, what isn't working here for whatever reason, when you use all the new libraries, then you don't need to create any card. So you don't need to build any card using code. You don't need to generate or create cards and have them stored here or whatever. What I did is I just take this send in JSON, and with the templating library, you can see, okay, it's just taking the JSON, parsing a card, and sending it back. So that's pretty much all you need to do. And as this part isn't working at all right now, for whatever reason, I had some trouble with Microsoft Teams logging in earlier. I had tons of issues, and for whatever reason, this isn't working right now. Doesn't matter, we have more things to show. So one thing, okay, let's get away from Microsoft Teams. That for whatever reason, that's not working today. I said before, adaptive cards is pretty much all about your, let's say, imagination. You can do a shit ton of things with adaptive cards, and there's a ton of things people might not even think about. What we have here in VS Code right now is just a really basic Vue.js app. There's nothing special about it. We have, even if you're not really familiar with Vue.js or anything, we just have two views pretty much. We have one thing you can create or edit a person, and we have a list view with people. If you look here, there's really not a lot in it. There's a couple of rows, a group. There's that tiny little thing here, which I go into detail about in a second. Overall, it's a really simple app. It's just 2 pages. There's not much to see here. There's no different, no other HTML forms, nothing. If we start the app now, you might see a little surprise here. As I said, here's that tiny little piece that might be suspicious for you, because I'm actually using adaptive cards here in that Vue.js app. And when it finally started, maybe I just stopped Visual Studio. I already did. Let's stop this one. I don't need that. Okay, we open our browser and we see this. So as you've seen in the code is pretty simple. There's nothing really in there. that's all it takes here. So the page we're currently looking at here is exactly this. So you don't see there's nothing in here. You don't see any image text. You don't see any labels. Nothing. Everything we do is just using adaptive cards for the whole app. So what you see here, some of you might have seen the example itself before, but we go into a little bit more detail later on. So what you see here, everything, so all these boxes, and I just made the boxes to show things a little bit better, is an adaptive card. You can edit the person, which again, that looks familiar from Microsoft Teams, for example, because I'm using the normal styling, but you can even change things a lot around. You can use a completely custom style here. You can, you can use your own controls, whatever. So basically, I built that app completely using adaptive cards. You can, like I said, you can edit a person, you can add a new person if you want to. Okay, so we added a new person, and the whole app. So everything you see right now. So the adding a user, adding a user, and the list view is completely built using just 2 adaptive cards. If you look into where did I put it? If you look here, we have a person card. Let's try this one, person card. We have the person card, and we have the card to create things. The create card works also for editing. That's something adaptive card does, because if you put in a null value here, so if root.email isn't bound, like in I have too many of Windows. If you click on add user, all the fields are not bound, are null values. And what adaptive cards does is when you set a null value, then it's just rendering the preview, the placeholder. That's why you can use the same card for editing and adding. So basically, the full app is made with just 2 cards. The really interesting part comes when you think about the possibilities. If I go back to my PowerPoint just for a second. So adaptive cards itself are just lightweight UI snippets, primarily used in Microsoft Teams and Outlook, but it's just a way to take JSON, render it as UI. So yeah, it's lightweight UI snippets. That's how it's summarized by Microsoft all the time. It's highly customizable. There's one part, it's the host config. You can set all the colors, you can set all the fonts, you can set margins, paddings, whatever you like. So you can really make it blend into your own app. Customizing is a little bit tricky here and there, but you can really make it blend into your own app up to a point that you don't notice it's an adaptive card. You can use your own controls, so you can use Bootstrap, you can use pretty much whatever UI framework you can think of. It just takes a little bit of time to tell adaptive cards to use your own controls, but you can do whatever you want. It's more than possible. You can write custom functions in the adaptive cards when you're hosting them yourself, and there's also the adaptive expressions. The interesting part is that cards can come from anywhere. So the renderer only takes JSON. So whatever you do, you only have to send in JSON. And as you might know, as a developer, JSON can you can make an API call. You can get a full card by using an API call, or you can have it hard coded in your code, which is probably not the most convenient way. You can dynamically generate it. You can store it in a database and effectively make parts of your UI customizable for customers. So let's say, so at the end, it's your pick. So whatever you want. in this example I have my card stored here, so it's pretty hard coded in the code. But these two cards could easily come from a database, and in this case, users of your app could customize that list here, for example, without any problem. They just have to change the card, and the UI is changed for them. That's pretty powerful, and many people don't really think about what you can do with it, and that's why I wanted to show that. Adaptive cards also helps you a lot with minimizing things you usually have to build and usually have to code. One thing I want to show you is that with adaptive cards 1.3, with 1.3, client-side validation was added to adaptive cards. Some of you might have seen that already. If we think I have an example here. This one. No, not this one, the other one. Yeah. So Microsoft added client-side validation to adaptive cards. In Microsoft Teams, this means, for example, you can validate various things before people actually click on submit. When it comes to your own apps, you quickly realize, hey, you can actually do really great things with that. Usually, you have things like required, so you can set specific fields as required. Say this field is required, whatever. You can say requires an email address or requires a password. The interesting thing here is, and especially when we think of apps and what adaptive cards can do for you, the password field, for example. So in many apps I've built, and probably many developers did that. Let's say you want to build a login form or a registration form for new accounts or whatever. You always have things like, oh, check the password if it's secure enough or not. And as the whole validation thing behind adaptive cards supports regex, you can actually easily do that. So now we have a password check here, which actually really checks for one lower, one upper, one special, and min HR. So we can do the text won't change because the text is just hard coded in there, but it says, okay, that doesn't work. We say we take one upper and we add let's scan up, and okay. Now we see, okay, it actually validates that, and that matches my regex, and that password would be valid. And I didn't do anything with it. That's purely adaptive card. We are in the adaptive card designer. That's nowhere. That's just adaptive card. I actually don't know if okay. Forgot one thing. We also want to check if the email is valid. Okay, we do the same here, and then we can actually check. Yep. So we now have a simple sign up form, which does nothing special. You might have seen a form like that a couple of times. What I want to show you is how that can really help you, make things a lot faster when you're building apps yourself, and that's why adaptive cards is so powerful. Because now I just take that. I just take the card. That's actually empty. Yeah, I add the card in my repository. So that's now I have the card in here. Like I said before, I could have loaded it from a database, or could have received it from an API or whatever. I added a new blank view earlier to make it faster. We just copy the stuff here for a second. We don't need that. We need that later. We don't need that. And we want to have the login card. JSON. Name login. Okay. Date. Okay. And we add the login root here to be the main thing. So if we look at the page again now, the first thing, obviously you would probably have that in a proper in a proper pop-up or whatever. But what we did now is I just added the I just took the card and put it in my own app. And if we imagine that would be a sign-up page, people could sign up and it would validate all the fields without me doing any form of coding in the back. That's all handled by Adaptive Cards itself. So I can build a full sign-up thing by just using Adaptive Cards, and I don't need to do any additional coding behind. And if doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So, and if I then, if the new person fills in all the fields, clicks on sign up, I get the fields from the form. I can use them in my own app to create the account and whatever. And I'm sure, okay, that's already validated. And if later on I want to add an additional field or want to change things, or maybe I want to change the password rule to be less strict or whatever, then I only have to change the adaptive card. I don't have to change anything else. I go here, change the adaptive card. That's all I have to do. And we actually, well, I can't show you that because I'm not allowed to show the app at this stage, but we are actually building a full product with mainly using adaptive cards for the UI because it's so powerful and you can do so many things with it. We customize it a lot, but we are actually really doing what I said. Like we store adaptive cards in the database. We create the UIs on the fly from the database, and that's all working perfectly fine. At the end, it's really, Matt is sort of right with what he said earlier with like the where is it? This one, because like adaptive cards itself is so powerful. You can do so many things with it. Like it's working in the browser. It's working on the Windows desktop. There's a native WinUI renderer coming soon. It works on mobile, on iOS without any problem, and Android. And so you can build a cross-platform app using adaptive cards for your UI, and you don't have to think about responsiveness. It will work on every, well, depends on the rest of your app, obviously. So if your app itself isn't working properly on mobile, adaptive cards won't help you here. So your app has to work on mobile as well. But if you stick to that, you can build a really dynamic, customizable app using adaptive cards, and at the end, it saves you a lot of time because all the UI pieces normally take quite some time. And like you've seen in my example here, like there's not a single HTML file there's not a single input here. There's no forms in the app. It's the app itself. So everything we have here is just layout. So that's just positioning, and that's everything I did myself, and the rest is adaptive cards. And you can even ask maybe we used to work with UX people and design people, and they are more than able to build cards in the adaptive cards designer. So the designer itself can directly build parts of your UI, and the developer just takes the card and implements the card at the position where it's supposed to be. And so you can even split work. a lot easier if you do that. So yeah, you can use adaptive cards to build full web apps, to build desktop apps, and so you can do a lot more with adaptive cards than just Microsoft Teams apps. The code for that, if you want to look at that, is on GitHub. So you can play around with it if you want to. It's updated. I just updated that to the latest adaptive cards version, so it supports everything you can do in adaptive cards, and you can just play around with it. One more thing, you might have seen that when you're working with adaptive cards, I have that thing here. Some of you might know that. So we built a new version of the adaptive cards add-in for VS Code. What you can do here is, like, I'm not sure if any of you is familiar with the VS Code plugin at all. So there was an older plugin for adaptive cards where you could effectively just view a card. So you could look at it would render a card like this, but it wasn't working anymore for newer versions. It wasn't really functional. It didn't support templating. So we built a complete new one. I suddenly have a bug in it. Right now I have a bug in here I wanted to fix, but well, doesn't matter. So you can effectively build cards in VS Code. There's a lot of pre-made snippets to make building cards easier. If you just start from scratch, there's templates for adaptive cards, maybe that one. So you can really quickly author cards in VS Code directly, and it really saves a lot of time. And what the add-in does is, when you're working in a project with adaptive cards, like I did in my example here, I have these 3 cards somewhere hidden in code. But maybe I'm working in a really, really big repository and I don't really know where my cards are. I only know I want to edit the card. So the adaptive cards add-in actually scans your current workspace folder for all adaptive cards. And it just takes all the cards that can be found in your code and puts them here, and you can easily just click through the cards and you can edit them. And you can also, when it comes to templating, like maybe you don't want to see these things here, you can also add demo data for you, and then you won't see the oops, I actually broke something here. Was that one? Yeah, and then you don't see the placeholder, but you actually see the actual value. So you can add sample data for yourself when you're working with cards, especially when you're working with larger cards. The sample data really makes it a lot easier to work with the cards. So we built that extension. It's available in the marketplace, and you can just download it and use it. And it makes it a lot easier to work with cards. Yeah, I can just, I think I have the link somewhere to that later. And yeah, that's pretty much what, as Microsoft Teams isn't working right now, we can maybe just try it again.